Teaser. Fade in. Exterior. Excalibur. Space. In orbit near planet. We establish Gideon. Voiceover. Captain's Personal Journal, September 3, 2267. Today everything changed. Interior, Gideon's quarters. It's dark. Gideon is in bed as the lamp beside his bed glows to life. He pulls himself up to a sitting position and moves off. Gideon. Voiceover. The day started off like all the rest. Too much traveling, too much work, too little sleep. Nothing unusual about it. Interior, Gideon's quarters, later. He comes into frame wearing the gray uniform. He pulls on his jacket, looks unhappily at the reflection in the mirror. Gideon voiceover. Well, almost nothing. Then he goes to the monitor, touches the screen. Gideon continued. Bridge. The monitor comes to life with Matheson's image, from the bridge. Matheson turns into camera, seated in the captain's chair, also in the gray uniform. Matheson. Good morning, Captain. Gideon. Lieutenant. What's our status? Matheson. Eilerson and Durina just took out a shuttle, heading planet side. They want to check out the ruins again. They still haven't found anything useful, but they want another day to look around, just to be sure. Gideon. I guess we can afford it. But no more than a day. Matheson. Aye, sir, I'll tell them. Gideon. One more thing. These new uniforms, how long have we been stuck with them now? Matheson. Almost 2 months. Gideon. And in those 2 months, have your communications with Earth given you any indication that the change to a more serious uniform has boosted morale back home? Matheson. None whatsoever. You ask me, the change was made just to give the brass back home something to do. Gideon. I agree. So I want you to send a message back home. Tell them, there's been a horrible accident in the laundry. All of the new uniforms have been destroyed. Pending resupply, we're going back to the uniforms we started out with. Matheson. Will do. But what happens when they check the computer logs and find out there was no accident? Gideon. There will be, John. I'll make sure of it. Matheson. Understood. Gideon clicks off and goes to the closet, where he removes the black uniform. He pulls off the gray jacket. As suddenly the lights go down. He looks around, noting that the only real source of illumination in the room is coming from the seam in the wall panel that hides the apocalypse box. He goes to it, opens the panel and takes out the box. Gideon. What's happened? Apocalypse box. The ship you have been searching for? Gideon. Yes. What about it? Apocalypse box. It is on the move again. On Gideon's reaction to this, we quick cut to exterior. Space. A ship of alien design is being fired on. We can see gouts of burning air spewing from the back. It's taking fire from somewhere behind. Interior, Gideon's quarters. Tighter now on Gideon. Gideon. Are you sure it's the same one? Exterior. Space. As the Ford alien ship continues to burn, various life pods ejecting, we now finally see the ship that is doing the attacking, tearing the ship apart. The same ship, or type of shadow ship variation, that destroyed Gideon's ship, the Cerberus. A shadow hybrid. It fires on the escaping ship again, almost the death shot. Interior, Gideon's quarters. Tighter now on the box. Apocalypse box. Yes. The same. Exterior. Space. The alien ship is destroyed by the shadow hybrid vessel. It then turns and begins picking off the various life pods. Exterior. Space. Angle on life pod. As one of them gets away, momentarily obscured by a passing comet or asteroid. Interior, Excalibur hallway. As Gideon, in black uniform, comes charging out of his quarters, heading down the hall, fast, people getting out of his way. He touches his wrist link. Gideon. Gideon to Matheson, recall the shuttles and get the ground team up here, right now. We're leaving. I found the bastard. You hear me? He's out there. Exterior. Space. As the shadow-style vessel moves away from the carnage it has created, We fade out. End of teaser.
Who are you?
Matthew Gideon, Captain, attached to the Earth Alliance starship Excalibur.
What do you want?
To find a cure to the Drakh plague before it wipes out all life on Earth.
Where are you going?
Anywhere I have to.
Who do you serve, and who do you trust? Who do you serve, and who do you trust?
Act 1. Fade in. Exterior. Shuttle. It's heading down toward the planet's surface. Interior. Shuttle. Dorina, Eilerson and some of the archaeological folks are present along with the pilot. Eilerson is going over a hand-drawn schematic of the ruins. Eilerson. Okay, so granted I'm not a professional thief, I'm just a plain, old genius-level archaeologist with 4 degrees and a, Dorina. Max. Eilerson. But I still think the main vault is in this area. Why else would these big towers be over here? Dorina. To throw off people like you who think size is everything. If it's big it must be important, and if it's important it must be big. Eilerson. Well, that's very kind of you, but let's not get distracted. Dorina. You're such a, just then his link goes off. Eilerson. Eilerson here. Matheson, on link. We're recalling the shuttle. Get back here ASAP. Eilerson. What? But we haven't even, Matheson, on link. This isn't a discussion, Max. We're breaking orbit in 20 minutes. If you're not back, we're leaving without you. Eilerson starts to replay, but Matheson breaks contact. Dorina and Eilerson exchange a look. Exterior. Shuttle. As it arcs upward and heads back for the Excalibur. We see other shuttles ahead of it, moving toward the Excalibur, much closer. Interior. Docking bay. Galen is in the area overlooking the docking bay, watching the shuttles return in BG, over-shoulder shot. He turns, looks off, his expression troubled. Interior, Excalibur bridge. Matheson approaches Gideon in the command seat, where he is entering information in a comp pad. Matheson. The last shuttle is on board, sir. Gideon. Good. Here are the coordinates. Jump as soon as you've laid in the course. Matheson. Will do. I've had requests from Eilerson and Chambers. They want to know what's going on. Gideon. Rising, I'm sure they do. Tell them to meet me in the conference room as soon as we're underway. Gideon starts at when? Matheson. Sir? Are you sure this is the right ship? We've been looking for a long time. I'd hate to see you disappointed again. Gideon. I'm sure, John. He exits. Off Matheson's concerned expression, we go to exterior. Excalibur, space. As the Excalibur jumps to hyperspace. Interior, hyperspace. The jump point closes, and the Excalibur takes a long beat heading away from camera. We dissolve to Interior, Excalibur conference room. Assembled, Dorina, Galen, Chambers, and Eilerson. They're waiting for a beat, then Gideon enters. Chambers. Captain, I'd like to, Gideon. I know. Please, sit. This won't take long. They do. There's a sense of concern, of skepticism. And of worry, what could prompt this sudden move? During this we intercut footage of the flashback scenes filmed earlier. Gideon continued. It's no secret that the first ship I served on 9 years ago was destroyed. According to the official records, the Cerberus went up when her jump engines malfunctioned. I was the only survivor. Beat, what is not reflected in the official report? What has been known to only a few of you in this room is that the Cerberus was not destroyed by a malfunction. She was attacked and destroyed by a vessel of unknown origin. I saw it. No one back home believed me. Chambers. Maybe they didn't want to believe you, there was a lot going on politically at the time. Planetary security was a big issue. Gideon. It's possible. The brass might have wanted to keep this hushed up because they didn't want to show any kind of weakness, didn't want news getting out before they know what they were dealing with. I don't know their reasons, and at the end of the day, I don't care. All I know is what happened. Beat, for 9 years, I've been looking for that ship. To prove that what I said was true, and to avenge the officers and crew who died on board the Cerberus. Ilerson. And now you think you have a lead, is that it? Gideon. I do. Galen. May I ask how you came by this lead? Gideon. Respectfully, Galen. No. Chambers. Captain. I understand what it means to lose your ship, to see everyone around you die. As much as anyone can who's never lived through it. But as you said, that was 9 years ago. The Drac Plague is a problem right now. This ship represents our best chance to find a cure off planet. Diverting her from that mission so you can go off on what might be a wild goose chase, Chideo, it's not. Durina. What are the odds that the ship you saw 9 years ago is still around? It might not even be the same one. Gideon. I think it is, and I'm willing to take that chance. But I haven't forgotten the importance of our mission, Sarah. That's why I'm leaving the final decision to the 4 of you. We're en route now to the location of the last sighting, but whether we pursue the target from there is up to you. I know I'm asking a lot. We'll be going AWOL. That's why the decision to go on has to be unanimous. If even one of you says no, we'll go back. Beat, anyway. That's all I wanted to say. Take your time. Let me know when you've come to a decision. With that, Gideon exits into interior, Excalibur Bridge. Continuous as Matheson approaches Gideon. Matheson. How did it go? Gideon. I don't know. We'll have to see. Beat, if they say yes, we've still got another problem. Earth is going to want updates on our location and the status of the mission. They aren't going to authorize this little diversion, and I don't want any of our people filing reports that can be proven false later. Matheson. Already taken care of. I called Earthdom and told them we have reason to believe there may be hostile forces in the area. Gideon. Based on what? Matheson. Well, it seems like everywhere we go there's somebody who doesn't like you, so it's a fair assumption. Gideon. Amused, granted. Go on. Matheson. So to avoid trouble, I said we'd be maintaining radio silence for the next few days. Gideon. And at the end of that time, if we don't find any hostiles? Matheson. Doesn't prove they weren't there. Just means we were successful in evading them if they were there. Gideon. You're a good man, John. At times like this, I'm glad you're on our side. Matheson. I try, sir. Clapping Matheson on the arm, Gideon exits the bridge. As Matheson watches him go, Galen comes up from behind. Galen. Ask you a question? Matheson. Sure. Galen. When did Matthew sound this particular alert? Matheson. 07:30 hours. Galen. I see. Interesting. Matheson. How so? Galen. Well, Matthew generally gets up at 7 o'clock. If he'd had something as important as this last night, he would have mentioned it then. That means he didn't have the information until this morning. After all, he had to get it from somewhere. Did he receive any messages between 7 and 7:30? In Matheson's reaction, the subtext is that he knows about the box. And even Gideon doesn't know that he knows about the box. So Matheson evades, to protect Gideon's secret. Matheson. I'm afraid that information is privileged. If you'll excuse me. With that, Matheson moves back toward the command chair. Galen takes it all in, missing none of the subtext, as Dorina comes up alongside. Dorina? What was that? Galen. Silence can sometimes be more revealing than an entire book. And the silence of an honest man is the most revealing silence of all. He moves off, Dorina taking a beat before following. Exterior. Excalibur, in hyperspace. It moves past us, moving fast, none of these slow panning shots, take it from far away and whip it past us to distant BG. Interior, Gideon's quarters. Gideon is looking at a picture of the crew of the Cerberus. We slowly pan around him, and either intercut with past footage, or just hear the audio of the first encounter. Flashback. Damn it, Lieutenant, something's shooting at us. We've been holed, seed deck losing pressure. Gideon, we need you out there. Moving 5 degrees off axis. Get us the hell out of here. And then we see, or hear, the explosion, by which time we're close on Gideon. We give him a beat, then his wrist link goes off. Gideon. Yes? Matheson. On link, they're ready to see you now. Gideon. Thank you, Lieutenant. Tell them I'm on my way. He rises, puts the picture back. We stay on it as he moves OS and we dissolve to. Interior, Excalibur conference room. The same group as before, Eilerson, Dorina, Chambers and Galen, is waiting for Gideon as he enters. Gideon. So. What's the verdict? Dorina. Are you sure it has to be unanimous or we turn around? Gideon. We're going AWOL. That seems only fair. Galen. The vote was 3 yes, 1 no. Gideon assumes the same thing we would, and looks to Eilerson. Eilerson. Don't look at me. I can understand revenge. It's healthy, you take it and you let it go. So I voted yes. Chambers. I was the one who voted no. I understand your grief, I've buried a lot of people close to me, nearly all of them long before their time. Contrary to Mr. Eilerson, I can even understand revenge. But I have an obligation to the lives at risk in the here and now. We can't afford delays or diversions, however strongly we feel about it. We have to leave the past where it is, and concentrate on the present. Gideon is struck by this. It's not what he wanted to hear. But whether or not he plans to contest it we will never know because at that moment Matheson appears in the adjoining room. Matheson. Captain. We've arrived at the location where the ship was sighted. Beat, I think you should see this. At the ominous tone in his voice, they turn and enter interior, Excalibur Bridge. They approach the main viewport and look out. We intercut their reactions in close to what they see. Exterior. Excalibur, space. The wreckage of the alien ship is still drifting from the main husk of the vessel. Torn and burned almost beyond recognition. Bodies floating past. Hundreds of them. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. It's a sobering moment. Quietly. Gideon. How many dead? Matheson. Hard to say for sure. Some of the bodies are only partial. Estimate 700-800. Beat, whoever did this, they even destroyed the life pods to make sure no one got away alive. Beat, listens, correction. We're getting a distress signal from one of the pods. Gideon. Set course to intercept. To Chambers, you said we should leave the past where it is, and concentrate on the present. 700 people were just murdered in the present. Are we going to turn our backs on them, Sarah? She considers it for a beat, and glances out at the carnage. Chambers. No. Keep going. Find the bastards. Exterior. Excalibur, space. As it closes in on the life pod, we fade out. End of Act 1. Act 2. Fade in. Exterior. Excalibur, space. Still in the area of the carnage. An alien rescued from the ship has been brought in and set up in the medbay, but not hermetically sealed behind glass. Chambers is working on him, but he doesn't look good. Gideon and Eilerson are also present, Eilerson speaking quietly to the alien and writing down what he's whispering back as Chambers goes to Gideon. Gideon. How is he? Chambers. We've done all we can, but he was badly injured before he even got into the life pod. Eilerson's getting a statement now, translating it on the fly. Gideon. Did he describe the ship behind the attack? Nods, Chambers. It sounded like something out of a nightmare. Gideon. That's about right. They look up to see Eilerson nodding for them to approach. He consults his notes. Eilerson. I think I got most of it. Main thing was getting the coordinates of the location where they ran into the other ship. Apparently it pursued them to this sector before finally attacking. Gideon. Probably didn't want to knock out the ship in its own backyard in case anyone tracked it back. Eilerson. He said they attacked out of nowhere. No warning. No mercy. His people were completely outgunned. But he thinks they were able to damage the ship's jump engines. Chambers. If we know what sector they came from, and we know they can't jump, then we still have a chance to catch them on their way back. They turn at a sound from the alien, a low moan. Gideon approaches. Alien. Nitaru. Nitaru Dali. Nitaru. Gideon. What's he saying? Eilerson. Find them. Avenge my people. Find them. The alien reaches out, desperation and fear in his eyes. Gideon takes his hand. Gideon. I will. Eilerson doesn't translate, but the meaning is clear. The alien closes his eyes, and expires. Gideon speaks without turning to look at the others. Gideon. Continued. Give the coordinates to Lieutenant Matheson. We're going after them. Full burn. Exterior. Excalibur, space. The engines flare to life and the Excalibur blasts away from the area of the carnage. This should feel as fast as the last moments of the escape from the Shadow Planet killer and call to arms. Maybe split it into 2 shots to accommodate this. Interior, Excalibur bridge. We pan to find Gideon in the command chair, Matheson nearby. Gideon. What's our current speed? Matheson. 0.75% of light speed. We can't go any faster than that in normal space. Gideon. Assuming they have the same limits we do, the laws of physics being what they are, their maximum speed should be roughly the same as ours. Matheson. Correct. And they have a 2-day head start. So unless something happened along the way to slow them down, catching up is going to be difficult. And if we jump to hyperspace, we could flash right past them, lose them altogether. Gideon. Not necessarily. We don't have to jump light years at a time. Set the jump engines to the maximum distance the scanners can cover. We'll scan the distance in between, then jump to the furthest perimeter, do another scan, then jump again to the next perimeter, on and on until we find her. It means taking baby steps with the jump engines, but we'll cover more terrain faster than staying in normal space the whole time. Matheson. That's going to put a hell of a strain on the jump engines, Captain. We could burn them out. Even if that doesn't happen, we'll still have to divert most of our power to the engines just to keep going. Gideon. Then do so. Plot a course solution and implement. Just leave enough power for gravity control and life support. Matheson. Aye, sir. To navigation, maintain course and heading. On command, jump to edge of scanner range. Navigation. Standing by, jump engines online. Gideon. Jump. Exterior. Excalibur, space. Shooting past IT toward where a red planet is visible in front of the Excalibur in the far distant BG. A jump point opens, and the Excalibur jumps to interior. Excalibur, hyperspace. The Excalibur finishes the jump, coming toward camera. It passes camera and goes forward just a bit, then another jump point opens, showing normal space in front of the Excalibur. Exterior. Excalibur, space. As it jumps out, coming toward camera. In the distant BG, the red planet we saw a moment ago far in front of the Excalibur is now far behind it. Interior, Excalibur bridge. Matheson checks the nearest console. Gideon. Anything on the scanners? Matheson. Negative. No sign of the target. Gideon. Jump. Exterior. Excalibur, space. As the Excalibur jumps again. As the lights dim briefly, Dr. Chambers notes it. She glances to a tech. Chambers. What the hell are they? No, never mind. I'd rather not know. I'll worry less that way. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. Gideon pacing, waiting. Exterior, normal space. As the Excalibur jumps out again. Interior, Excalibur hallway. Galen walks down the hall as the lights dim. Some of the other crew look a little nervous about this. Galen just notes it and moves on. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. Close on one of the crew members with nav glasses, as we see the jump point to hyperspace forming reflected in the glasses. Interior. Excalibur, engine room. Our first shot of the engines, and they're straining to the max. We see a power glow coming from somewhere down the long shaft that powers the immense ship. Angle, a wall where a worker in the engine room is looking on, the glow of the OS engines rising and falling on his face, looking very nervous. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. On Gideon 4. Gideon. Jump. Exterior, hyperspace. As the Excalibur jumps in. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As Matheson looks to Gideon. Matheson. Sir. Engineering reports jump engines are running 500 degrees above recommended safe limits. No reply, our tolerance levels are, Gideon. She can handle it, Lieutenant. Matheson. Aye, sir. Ready to jump. Gideon. Jump. Exterior, normal space. As the Excalibur jumps back to normal space. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As Gideon approaches Matheson, at one of the consoles. Gideon. Anything? Matheson. I'm not sure. Power drain has interfered with the scanner array. I'm having a hard time getting a coherent signal. He works the console for an agonizing moment. Gideon. Lieutenant. Matheson. I'm almost. And he stops. He slowly raises his eyes to the main screen. Matheson. Continued. There it is. Gideon looks up. And sees something he thought he might never see again. Exterior, shadow hybrid. Moving for all she's worth, the damage from the prior battle visible. The Excalibur is a dot far behind, barely visible. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. For Gideon this is a moment of elation but also great caution. He finally has some of the proof he's always wanted. But he knows that what's out there is dangerous and could kill his ship. Gideon. Got you, you son of a bitch. Battle stations. Monitors on. By God, this time I'm going to have a record. Engines, full ahead. Matheson. Engines are below capacity, the microjumps took a lot out of them. Gideon. She's not getting away, Lieutenant, not this time. Matheson. Picking up ion discharges. She's launching fighters. Exterior, shadow hybrid. A series of fighters are already peeling away from the shadow hybrid, heading back toward the Excalibur as the hybrid continues to try and escape. On this, we. End of Act 2. Act 3. Fade in. Exterior. Excalibur, space. NBF as the shadow hybrid fighters race toward it. Matheson, voiceover. Enemy fighters on approach. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As the scene continues. Matheson. Standing by to launch fighter wing. Gideon. Belay that. They want us to get bogged down so the main ship can escape. They know if we launch fighters we can't just abandon them. By the time the fight's over and they're back on board, the target will be long gone. Beat, maintain course and heading, engines at maximum. We'll go right down the middle. Once we're past them, they won't be able to keep up. Matheson. Even with the interceptors going, we'll take some fire. Gideon. I know. Ready all guns. Several of the crew members exchange nervous glances at this, he's taking a risk. Matheson. Aye, sir. All guns prepare to fire. Beat, here they come. Gideon. Fire at will. Exterior. Excalibur, space. A series of shots of the Excalibur charging right down their throats, firing from all sides. The ship is moving fast as possible, the fighters firing back and trying to stay in front of the big ship. Some of the bursts hit. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. Intercutting shots as the place rings with impacts. Interior. Excalibur, space. Another series of shots as the Excalibur starts to get past them, still taking hits. Then one of the fighters still in front of the ship swings out in direct front and starts toward the bridge area. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As Matheson reacts to this. Matheson. She's on a collision course. Gideon. Brace for impact. Exterior, Excalibur Weapons Array. As it fires at exterior, Shadow Fighter Hybrid. It dodges the first incoming round, then is hit by the next. It spins out of control and starts to come apart, going end over end, until one of the burning segments hits exterior, Excalibur Bridge. It slams into the side of the bridge section away from the viewport. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. The place rocks, smokes and a flash from one side of the bridge, and one of the crew is thrown clear of his seat. Matheson. Damage control. Several techs running with extinguishers to put out the blazes. Gideon goes to the downed crewman. Gideon. Get a med team up here, fast. He pulls his hand back from the crew member's head, and it comes back wet with blood. Exterior. Excalibur, space. As the Excalibur pulls away from the fighters, then try and pursue, but they can't keep up, and begin to fall behind. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. A medical team with a stretcher has picked up the crew member and hustles out. Down the left hallway would be easiest. Gideon moves to the command chair. Gideon. Status. Matheson. Minimal damage to hull. Auto repair systems engaged. Enemy fighters are falling behind. We're outrunning them. Gideon. What about the target? Matheson. She's pulled ahead. And space engines are at maximum. We can catch up, but it's going to take time. Estimate at least 8 hours. Gideon. Stay with her. Matheson. Aye, sir. Exterior. Excalibur, space. As it moves away from camera, still in pursuit, the enemy ship is now long beyond visual range. We dissolve too. The medical team is working on the bridge crew member in one of the isolation rooms. Several other crew members with less serious injuries are also being treated. Chambers is moving through it, coordinating the treatments, as Gideon enters. Chambers. We need plasma, lots of it. Where the hell are those bone scans? Can we get a hand over here? Gideon. How is he? Chambers. We're doing all we can. We'll know in a few hours. Most of the serious injuries have been moved to the standby med bay. Gideon. Any fatalities? Chambers. No. With meaning, not yet. Gideon. Having second thoughts about your vote? Chambers. I'll let you know. Right now isn't a good time to ask me. She moves off to one of the other injured crew members. Gideon looks to the one being operated on, then turns. And his eyes meet the other crew members sitting or propped up on one elbow. Their faces smeared with soot or banged up, their gaze is not accusatory. But they are scared, through trying not to show it. Gideon takes a beat in the face of that, then continues out. Exterior. Excalibur, space. Continuing on its way. Interior, Excalibur mess hall. Gideon is sitting alone at one of the tables, something resembling coffee sitting cold and untouched on the table in front of him. There's no one else in the place. Camera pans around him slowly. As it comes around again, we now see Galen sitting in a chair behind him, almost back to back, also with a cup of coffee in front of him. Galen. It's cold. Gideon. Yes, it is. Galen. I meant the coffee. Gideon. I didn't. Times like this. It's like the temperature drops 10 degrees all around me. I wrapped my hands around the cup, tried to get warm. Couldn't. Finally just gave up. Beat, I know what that ship is capable of doing, Galen. It killed the Cerberus without even trying. I think the Excalibur has a better chance against it, but the truth is, I still don't know for sure if we can take it. I'm risking everyone's life chasing this thing. And I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Galen. If we survive, then we did the right thing. If we don't, well, At least we won't have to put with anyone saying we told you so. Beat, you could always turn back. Gideon. I can't. Galen. Won't. Gideon. Same thing. You know what this means to me, Galen. You were there. Someone has to speak for the dead. Galen. Pity no one ever asks the dead what they would want to have said on their behalf. It might sound like honor us by staying alive, so that at least one living person might remember us. But I understand what you're feeling, Matthew. I have settled my own debts with the dead. Beat, I once gave you my word that I would stand by you in your own quest for justice, and I have no intention of breaking that promise. I will accompany you into any darkness and down any road you deem necessary. Beat, but there is one thing in all this that does concern me, Matthew. Gideon. What's that? Galen. A technomage has ways of knowing things that seem, well, mysterious to outsiders. Sources of information not generally available to the public. Some of them are quite dangerous. From what I've been able to piece together, you did not find out about this ship through conventional means. That leaves only unconventional means. Beat, I worry, Matthew. I worry that you are holding something back. I worry that you may be using something quite beyond your control. And that something quite beyond your control may be using you. During this, we have panned around so that Gideon is the only one on camera. Gideon. You don't have to worry, Galen. I know what I'm doing. No reply. He turns, and Galen is gone, along with his cup of coffee. He looks around, alone. We pull back on him, seated by himself, and hold for a beat before his link beeps. He touches it. Gideon. Continued. Yes? Matheson. On link, Captain, I thought you should know. We've lost contact with the enemy. On Gideon's reaction, we go to interior, Excalibur Bridge. Shooting past Gideon and Matheson to the window, where we can see an asteroid field in front of us. Matheson. We lost scanner contact with the ship just as it approached this asteroid belt. The heat signature faded out and disappeared. It could be anywhere. Gideon. No. It's in there. If she jumped to hyperspace, the signature wouldn't cut out hard. It faded because they cut their engines and glided into the asteroid field. They're running silent, hoping we won't be able to find them in all that. Matheson. Assuming you're right. What should we do? Gideon. The same thing. Go into the asteroid field, cut our engines and go cold. Then we wait until they think we've gone. Once they cut in their engines, we'll pick up their location again. Matheson. Sir. If they're running engines cold, that means they can't navigate, can't avoid being hit by one of those asteroids. If we go in after them and cut our engines, we run the same risk of being destroyed if we're hit by a big one. Gideon. I know. I think the operative phrase here is playing chicken. Beat, move us into the field, Lieutenant. Matheson. Aye, sir. And he moves off to comply. Exterior, asteroid field. As the Excalibur moves into the asteroid field, there's general nervousness about this, except from Gideon. Gideon. Cut engines. Run silent. Matheson. Powering down. Running cold. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. Favoring the engine nacelles as they power down. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. The lights lower, the bridge goes silent. Exterior, Excalibur. Excalibur, asteroid field as it moves through the field. A small piece bangs off the front of the ship. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. The sound of the impact rumbles through the ship. The techs look to each other, nervous. Gideon paces into the chart room, trying not to think about what he's doing. Navigation. Sir. How long are we going to stay in here? Matheson. Until the captain says we leave. And there's another OS impact. Exterior, asteroid field. Favoring the Excalibur as smaller asteroids ricochet off it, we fade out. End of Act 3. Act 4. Fade in. Exterior, asteroid field. Again favoring the asteroid field as bits continue to rumble off the Excalibur's hull. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. The place shudders with impact. Gideon is in the chart room, pacing. The crew is nervous. Navigation. To adjacent crew person, he's crazy. He's going to get us all killed. Matheson. Ensign, come here. He was hoping Matheson wouldn't hear. But he did. The ensign gets up, crosses to Matheson, who goes practically nose to nose with him. His voice is low, we don't hear what he's saying, he barely even moves, but from his expression and the intensity of it we know that he's telling the ensign that if he ever says anything like that again he will personally scoop out his eyes and serve them on toast for breakfast, and other assorted wonderfulnesses. After a beat the ensign returns to his place, looking pale. The crewperson beside him leans in quietly. Crewperson. What did he say? Navigation. Let's just say I'd rather face whatever's out there than what's standing behind me. A beat and Gideon comes toward Matheson. Gideon. Any problems, Lieutenant? Matheson. No. No problems, sir. Exterior, asteroid field. Favoring the shadow hybrid, as it rises into frame behind the Excalibur and far BG, there's quite some distance between them. A huge asteroid, a ship killer, rolls toward the alien ship. And it fires a thruster to avoid collision. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As the crew member reacts to his controls. Crewperson. Sir. Scanners report thruster fire. Gideon. Where? Crewperson. Getting a fix, it's. Sir, it's right behind us. Gideon. Dive, 180 degrees relative. Matheson. Down angle, 180. Gideon. Deploy countermeasures. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As it blasts straight down, a flurry of round crystalline objects flying out of the back of the ship just as exterior, shadow hybrid. Fires, the beam striking the countermeasures, which deflect and refract the beam into various colors as they break it down into its various frequencies. Many of them are destroyed in the process. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As the place still takes a good shot from the reduced beam. Matheson. Countermeasures functional. Refracting energy into component frequencies. If they'd hit us full on, Gideon. We can't give them the chance. Rear guns, target enemy vessel, weapons and navigation only, I want that thing in one piece. Crewperson. Aye, sir. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As it returns fire from rear-mounted guns. Most of the burst are intercepted by the asteroids in between them and the target, but a couple get through, scoring good hits. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As Matheson turns to Gideon. Crewperson. Partial hit. Minimal damage. Gideon. Come around for another pass. We have to cripple her before, Matheson. Sir. Picking up power build in the enemy jump engines. They must have finished their repairs. Gideon. Damn it, if she jumps we'll lose her. Do we have a shot? Crewperson. Negative. Too many asteroids between us. Gideon looks to the screen, which shows the asteroid field at their relative positions there, with the two ships blocked from each other by the floating mountains. Matheson. She's accelerating. Ready to jump. Gideon. Stand by main guns. Target that asteroid, dead ahead of them. Matheson. Main guns online. Gideon. Fire. The lights dim. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As the main guns fire. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As the mountainous asteroid, practically a planetoid, ahead of the hybrid is hit, and blasts into a million pieces, racing away in every direction at top speed, a cloud of them slamming into exterior, shadow hybrid. The cloud of supersonic hard rocks slams into the hybrid, practically shredding it. Skinning away weapons and just wreaking all kinds of hell, incapacitating it. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. As Matheson looks to Gideon, pleased. Matheson. Scanners are barely functional, but it looks like the debris has shredded the enemy instrumentation, navigation, and weapons. She's intact, but floating dead in space. Lights rising, power returning. We can navigate. Gideon. Bring us closer. and scramble a boarding party. Matheson. Aye, sir. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As it closes on the enemy ship, floating dead in space. Interior, Excalibur bridge. As they approach the main window, through which we can see the shadow hybrid. Matheson. That's really it, sir? The same one? Gideon. The same one. Or a modified version. It looks like there have been a few changes since it killed the Cerebus. Matheson. We're picking up a signal from the enemy ship. Gideon. Is it for us? Matheson. Negative. It's a coded message. Gideon. Record it. Let me hear. He touches a button, and we hear the digitally encoded signal, which sounds identifiably strange. An almost melodic but scary quality to the sound. Then, abruptly, it cuts out. Gideon. Continued. Did we get it? Matheson. Aye, sir, it's Cruperson. Captain, jump engines on enemy ship are charging up. Gideon. I thought she couldn't navigate. Matheson. She can't. Gideon. Hell. Get us away from here. She's going to self-destruct. Matheson. Full reverse, maximum burn. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As the Excalibur begins moving backwards as fast as the retros can move her. Interior, Excalibur bridge. A sense of urgency. Cruperson. Estimate 20 seconds to critical mass. Matheson. We're still inside the blast range. Gideon. Can we jump? Matheson. Not this fast after firing the mains. Cruperson. 10 seconds, Matheson. It's going to be close. Exterior, asteroid field. Several shots. The Excalibur racing backwards, knocking aside smaller asteroids, the shadow hybrid starting to glow up. Then the explosion, which shatters all the asteroids surrounding the shadow hybrid, sending a ripple effect of debris away. The first shock waves hitting the Excalibur, interior, Excalibur bridge. The place shudders badly with the impact, the lights momentarily dimming. A couple of small spot fires break out here and there. Then the lights snap out. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. The ship lurches badly for a moment, but steadies herself. The last vestiges of the blast, the second shock wave, rolls over the scene, but is partially blocked by a planetoid-sized asteroid. If not for that, the Excalibur would be destroyed. The effect is that of an eclipse, the Excalibur in front of the asteroid, which is in front of the coming shock wave, and the fiery corona silhouetting the asteroid momentarily wipes out our view of the Excalibur, unit finally exterior, asteroid field. As the light dies down, revealing the Excalibur damaged but intact. Interior, Excalibur bridge. As the lights slowly come up again, people picking themselves up off the floor. Gideon. Damage report. Matheson. Power restored on all decks. Damage to forward hull, repair teams en route. Getting reports of injuries from several decks, Dr. Chambers is coordinating medical response. Gideon. Anyone killed? Matheson. No sir, not as far as I can tell. Gideon. Thank God for that much. Send a survey team out there. Check the debris. If there's anything intact out there, I want it brought back. Matheson. Aye, sir. Matheson moves off to comply. Gideon looks to the navigator, who was injured during the battle. His eyes saying what he can't. That the captain's obsession did this. Gideon notes it, and moves off. Exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As an EVA team moves away from the ship, we pan up to a porthole. Interior, Excalibur hallway. Galen stands at the porthole looking out into space as Dorina joins him. Dorina? Is it over? Galen. For a little while. Dorina? I noticed you didn't get directly involved in the battle. Galen. It would not have been appropriate. There are some battles that cannot be fought by anyone but yourself. This is one of them. Dorina? But you didn't leave, either. If we'd been destroyed, you would have died right along with him. Galen. We're entwined. It is our path. Dorina. Great. So where do I fit in? Galen. squarely in the middle of the fire. With that, Galen moves off. Dorina. I really hate it when you do that. With no reply coming, she turns her attention back to the porthole. Exterior, asteroid field. It's later, and we see a group of EVA-suited hazmat teams coming back toward the ship. Matheson. Voiceover. EVA team reports they couldn't find anything larger than an inch across. Everything was burned beyond recognition. Interior, conference room. Gideon is seated, going over the report, as Matheson waits. Gideon. All right. Continue on to the coordinates we got from the alien. We'll check out the area where they first ran into that thing, maybe we'll find something useful. Matheson nods, exits, as Eilerson enters. Eilerson. I've been studying the record of the battle, and I found something I think might interest you. He pops in a data crystal which shows a distant shot of a shadow vessel and the shadow hybrid side by side. Eilerson. Continued. These ships were built by the Shadows, an ancient race that left known space about 5 years ago. Gideon. I've heard of them. The Drac worked for them. Eilerson. Yes, but this design isn't Drac. It's definitely Shadow in origin. There aren't many close pictures of Shadow vessels because if you got too close you usually got destroyed, but as you can see, there is a definite resemblance. Beat, consider this, Captain. We're out here going from planet to planet looking for lost alien technologies. Beat, what if someone else has been doing the same thing? Off Gideon's reaction to this, we go to exterior Excalibur, asteroid field. As it pulls away from camera, we move into the floating maze of debris. And something slowly tumbles toward us out of it. As it does, we see it more clearly. An old Kennedy silver $50. As it continues moving end over end, past camera, we fade out. End of Act 4. Tag. Fade in. Exterior, planet. It's a very nice planet, but that's not our main interest right now. We pan across to the local moon, the Excalibur in FG between us and the moon. Interior, Excalibur Bridge. Gideon and Matheson stand at the window, looking out at the moon. Gideon. You sure these are the right coordinates? Matheson. Aye, sir. Gideon. Any sign of life? Matheson. Negative. High methane atmosphere, uninhabitable without breathers. Massive cratering in one area. Looks recent. Gideon. Yes, it does. Dawning realization, we're going down. Matheson. All right, I'll prep a shuttle. Gideon. No. Just a fighter. I'll drive. You'll fly a. Matheson. Aye, sir. They move OS, Matheson curious about this. Exterior, moon. As a thunderbolt traces over the surface at a few hundred feet above the ground. Interior, thunderbolt. Gideon's driving, Matheson riding Gib, guy in back. Matheson. There it is, sir. Exterior, moon. As the thunderbolt traces overhead, we pan around to reveal an area that has been glassed over, burned by a superheated blast sufficient to fuse sand. There's some sign of heavy lifting equipment sticking out of the fused sand. Matheson. Voiceover. Whatever was here. It's gone now. An area this big. Could it have been a construction site? Maybe this is where they made the chip. Interior, thunderbolt. As they continue their flyby, we begin to feature Gideon. Gideon. Maybe. That's one of the 3 things that worry me. You don't just build one ship like that. If there's one, there are bound to be more. Matheson. What are the other 2? Gideon. If there are more than one of those ships, the one we chased may not have been the one that killed my ship. Which means there's still a score to settle with somebody. Beyond that, take a good look at that blast site, Lieutenant. The way the impact has fused the sand into glass. Look familiar? Matheson. Realization, it's the same signature blast made by the main guns on the Excalibur. Gideon. Exactly. That's why I didn't want anyone else on the crew to see this. Beat, it appears that we have an opposite number, Lieutenant. Exterior, moon. As the thunderbolt zooms past overhead, reflected in the fused sand beneath. Interior, Excalibur Med Bay. Chambers. Well. It's our wandering star. You've been all over the place today. Dorina. Just thought I'd come by and see how you were doing. Chambers. Exhausted. But the good news we didn't lose anyone. Not one person. Came close a few times, but we got through without any casualties. Dorina. The captain will be pleased. It'd be hard to explain fatalities when we're supposed to be just sitting quietly in Sector 840 and avoiding trouble. As for the wandering beat, I always feel useless during the big fights. Not much for a thief to do against a big ship. Staying busy keeps me from thinking about that. I just wish there was more I could do. Chambers. Be careful what you ask for, Dorina. So where's Galen? Usually where you are, he isn't far behind. Dorina. He's in his ship. One thing I've learned. When he's in there, I don't bother him. Ever. Interior. Flight deck. We see Galen's flyer parked among the other ships. Interior. Galen's ship. As before, we see nothing of it except the shadows and the darkness. Except this time, there's a translucent god screen at one side, where we see another techno mage, Dirk. Dirk. Are you sure it was Shadow Tech? Galen. Positive. Dirk. Then it seems your choice to leave us was correct after all. Does the captain know of our involvement? Galen. No. Not yet. But he will, in time. Dirk. Perhaps. But you should do all you can to delay that particular revelation. Galen. I will do what is right. Dirk. That is not an answer, Galen. Galen. Quite true. With emotion, the image disappears, leaving only Galen. He moves off Gideon. Voiceover. Today everything changed. Interior, Gideon's quarters. Night, Gideon is restless, moving through the room until finally sitting on the bedside Gideon. Voiceover. Until today, there were still days when I doubted myself. Wondered if I'd really seen what I saw that day. No more. I've proven that these ships exist. But that's not the same thing as proving that one of them killed the Cerberus. Before I can bring this back home, I need more information, to narrow the gap between what I know and what I can prove. He toggles his wrist link. Gideon. Continued. Ship. Executive order. Maintain scan 24 hours per day for the frequency we intercepted from the enemy ship. Notify me, and me alone, if the signal is detected. Computer confirmed. Gideon. Play it again. The sound of the signal we heard before fills the room. As Gideon lies back on the bed, to listen, to memorize it, we fade out. End of show.